Hello, this is Nathan with MeatRx, and I'm here today with Kiki, and I'm going to be asking her about her success story. So, hello, Kiki, how are you?
Hi, Nathan. I'm very well. I'm very happy to be here sharing my success story. Thank you.
Oh, it's great to have you. So, let's dive right in, and I will ask you the
Okay.
first question. Um, what was your health like before you found the carnivore diet?
I would say for maybe about 15 years, my health was deteriorating, just my general vitality and well being, which was very surprising to me. I've practiced yoga for 40 years. I thought I had the best diet in the whole world. I was a vegetarian, often vegan, but as I was encountering inflammation, joint pain, ongoing ear aches, really erratic digestion, rashes, chemical sensitivities, exhaustion, body pain, like 24-hour body pain, and almost overall like rash all over my body. That was kind of the final thing. And as I was looking for solutions, I was always looking at vegetarian solutions. And at a certain point, I realized, well, I've come to the end of the line. And I was hearing about paleo, hearing about the Weston Price Foundation, hearing about keto, bone broth, all these different things. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start looking in these new areas.
Wow, wow, 35 years. I can't even imagine. And did you never connected the dots that it was the way you're
You know,
eating
I
to your
didn't,
health?
isn't that crazy? I didn't connect the dots because I became vegetarian, you know, in my college years, in the early 80s in New York City. I had a really strong feeling to eat organic food, which was very unique, and that turned out to be, a good idea. And to be vegetarian, and I read very influential books at the time, Died for a Small Planet, Died for a New America, and I really felt not only was I on a great health crusade for myself, but the food choices that I were making, these pro-vegetarian food choices, were somehow going to help feed the world. And I traveled to India extensively as a yoga student, yoga teacher, yoga school owner, and where I traveled was South India, and it's highly vegetarian. And all of the lore around vegetarianism is that not only is it great for health, but it's great for spiritual advancement and peace of mind and all these other things. So I even saw some of the most highly regarded Ayurvedic doctors. And even though Ayurveda has a very extensive tradition of eating meat and using animals for boosting health, not one doctor ever told me to eat meat. They just gave me more slop, more lentils, more dal, more ground almond pastes. And I began to see that when I would travel to India for study, I would go for 3 months at a time, 6 months at a time. I would get there feeling great, and then I would get body pain, and I would think, oh, this is from the intensity of the yoga that I'm doing, because I did those really intense yoga postures, putting both my legs behind my head, deep back bends, grabbing my ankles. And I thought, okay, this is from the yoga. No, I now see, especially learning from Sally Kate Norton, that it was from the oxalates. It was from, you know, all these toxic compounds and all the nightshades and the potatoes and the wheat and the gluten. And so I didn't put it together, and there was no one in my circle that pointed it out. So I went out on a limb and I started searching. I started with bone broth, and I had 5 sips of bone broth, and for the first time in 30 years, my hands and feet got warm. I mean, I had ice cold hands and feet. I lived in Hawaii in a hooded sweatshirt, you know, under a tree with a shawl. I mean, I carried a shawl with me 365 days a year because I was always cold. Um, I had certainly been conditioned through my reading, through vegetarian and vegan propaganda or misinformation. Um, I've been conditioned to think that meat was going to kill me, that it was going to cause cancer, that with every bite, not only would I destroy my own health, I was going to destroy the planet. So it was very hard for me to eat meat. but I started, and I followed Jason Fung. I started Googling around. I remember seeing, this is about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago. I watched Dr. ShawnBaker on Joe Rogan, and I've started the carnivore diet. And I was like, who's Joe Rogan? I mean, I'm like in this yoga wellness coaching world. And I was like, who's Joe Rogan? I don't know who that is. And I watched, and then I'm reading about Dr. ShawnBaker. I was like, this is too much. I found Kelly Hogan, My Zero Carb Life. I was like, this is insane. I think for me, Georgia Ede, and there was other people that were more friendly, gatekeepers, so to speak, that brought me into it. I thought Kelly Hogan's story was amazing. I found Zero Carb Zen and Amber O'Hearn. And then, of course, ShawnBaker, who I'm so grateful for the work of him and the whole community, the Meet Our X community. And then I really just started listening to as much as I could. I listened to every Human Outlier podcast for the first year. That was a great education for me. And then just all the people in the low carb keto community who are sharing at the low carb, events and everything like that. So I just keep learning and reading and researching and feeling fantastic. So my health turned around very quickly. Even problems that I thought there were things that I didn't even attribute to my diet. Terrible insomnia, racing thoughts, anxiety, and these things disappeared very quickly. So I went from feeling like so exhausted, so stiff, so in pain. I was in 24-hour pain. I would wake up if I turned over in bed because my neck hurt so much, my hips hurt so much, my lower back hurt so much. I would cancel social engagements. I would think, I can't go. I'm too tired. I can't walk. I can't walk the extra 10 blocks. I'm just not going to go. And I have I had at the time leading for many years, a highly physical lifestyle. I ran yoga schools. I ran yoga programs. I travel and teach yoga all over the world. I would have like the smallest possible suitcase in an airport, and I would just think, I can't drag it. I can't drag my suitcase. In my 40s, in my early 50s, which I don't think is old. So it was really terrible. So no, I never attributed to vegetarianism, and I never attributed it to aging, and I didn't attribute to menopause or something. I just thought I have a weak constitution or something like that. But I had a very strong faith that I could solve it through diet, just not the diet I had expected.
So that brings me to my next question. Did you go carnivore right away, or did you just slowly start adding in? And how did you find out about the carnivore diet again?
I guess I found out about it because I did listen to Dr. ShawnBaker on Joe Rogan. Like I said, I had a lot of conditioning against it, and I just thought it was too extreme. I was like, it's too extreme. I started adding meat, and I think going keto, I would say, according to like Dr. Jason Fung's principles, even though I was not obese, I read his book, The Obesity Code, because I wanted all the science and the information around this ketogenic, what a ketogenic metabolism is and why it's beneficial. So I started like using an app and trying to get enough fat and protein and limiting my carbs. And then as I continued reading about these zero carbers and the carnivore diet and feeling better and better all the time, I was like, well, what? I don't need to count carbs. I just won't eat any. And that was probably after about 3 or 4 months in. And I have to say, it was just a huge game changer. I was so hungry, Nathan. It's like my body had such a strong need for nutrition. I would make a pound of hamburger and eat 4 burgers. And I would think, I'm still hungry. I'm going to make another pound. I think there was about a 6-month period where I had a pound of hamburger and a pound of bacon every day for lunch. And I ate again at dinner. Like, I think burger, as a longtime vegetarian, it was easy for me to eat. It was easy to chew. I now understand that, you know, my jaw was weak, my teeth were weak because I hadn't been chewing things. I was on this soft food diet, this smoothie, cooked food, oatmeal, you know, whatever, veggie bowl diet. And so it was hard for me to eat like too much steak. So I got into it pretty quickly. Regrettably, I uncovered that I am sensitive to dairy, I'm sensitive to eggs, and I'm sensitive to pork. I eat a little bit of chicken, mostly for entertainment. If I go out to a restaurant and or meet friends, I'll be like, oh, I'll have chicken wings. And it's fun to be out and to be social and have something to order. So now I eat, probably for the last year and a half, I eat 2 pounds of mostly beef a day. And in the last several months, more and more steak and less burger, but very happily eating that. And every now and then, I just want to, you know, have a snack and I'll chomp on a few pork rinds, which, I mean, since I was a child, I looked at pork rinds and I was like, what are those? Who would ever eat that? And now I'm like, pork rinds. But if I eat, you know, if I eat off plan just a little bit, I will exhibit some rashes, some body pain almost immediately, and maybe a little insomnia and tinnitus. I really crescendoed with terrible tinnitus, you know, is almost one of the worst symptoms in addition to, you know, terrible body pain. The area where I'm sensitive now, if I eat off plan, I might get some inflammation, sort of in a sciatica type area, and also a little bit of rash. And I'm like, damn it, girl, you learned your lesson. Get back to just meat and salt. I want to add, for anyone that's inspired to try this as a 35-year vegetarian or something, that James DiNicolantonio's book on salt was a huge help to me. And I know there's a kind of a divide on yes salt or no salt, but as a very active and athletic person, salt is the only supplement that I take. So beef and salt, sparkling water.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love my sparkling water.
I
Yeah.
know.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned rashes. Now, when I before carnivore, I also had some kind of skin condition, and doctors would just kind of look at it and be like, "Well, I don't know," you know. I found out it was like folliculitis. Now, that was totally because of the oxalates, right?
Yes, I believe it was because of the oxalates and maybe other leaky gut, you know, responses. I had, I've always had like good skin. Do you know what I mean? Like in high school, I barely ever had a pimple. So for me to get rashes, it was just so confounding. And I got something that was almost like goosebumps over most of my body that were just there all the time. I was like, oh my God. And then I got rashes sort of in these kind of moist creases, like here and at my bra line, at my panty line, in my armpits, sometimes behind my knees. And they itched like crazy. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. And a dermatologist, you know, all they do is prescribe topicals and nothing changed. And then a dermatologist said, well, we're going to take 2 biopsies because we think it's 2 rashes, but we don't know what. And I said, what will you learn from the biopsy? And she said, what topical we can use. And I said, I'm going to get 2 biopsies so you can tell me what topical to use. And obviously I didn't do the biopsies. I went to an acupuncturist and he had a new baby at home and he was like looking at these rashes and he's like, it kind of looks like diaper rash. Like, why don't you just use like A&D ointment? It was the only thing that worked. I mean, I had to go to an acupuncturist acupuncturists helped me throughout, like throughout this whole time. You have to understand, I'm a super active woman. I ride a bike all over New York City like a fiend. I'm teaching maybe 2, 3, 4 hour yoga workshops, yoga classes, teacher trainings. And I would get a 2 hour massage every week. I would get acupuncture every week. I was doing other kinds of body therapy modality, fascial massage, and so many things. Now I miss getting massages, but I don't need massages. I really, even since I was a teenager, because I was an active runner, an active dancer, I was a professional dancer, professional actress. I've always soaked in a hot tub every morning. Not a hot tub like a jacuzzi hot tub. Like I would run a hot bath and I would soak in it to get my body to its movement potential. And now I'm living on a sailboat. I don't have a hot bath. And I've just, I just feel great. I feel fantastic. I really feel like I rolled the clock back to my fittest, most active time, which, my maybe 30s or so, 20s, 30s, and that I got these lost years back. I really feel I'm actually anti-vegan. I'm very afraid for vegan mothers, for their vegan children. I'm very afraid. I've been speaking with, young women that I know who respect me and saying, I encourage you to put your son on a traditional diet. Let his grandmothers feed him. They know what's best. So, yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
be living on a sailboat if I hadn't started the carnivore diet, because I didn't have the energy, the freedom of movement, the speed of movement to be running up and down and over the boat and jumping on and off the dock and things like that. And so it's opened up, and just the world, the life that I always dreamed of living has been given back to me, a life of travel and adventure.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like it was night and day, the change.
Absolutely night and day. Absolutely. And in my community, I have a YouTube channel, Kiki Says. I've had it for about 10 years. And I never was overtly vegetarian, but because I traveled to India so much, because I knew so much about the herbs or these different sort of wellness and self-care, natural beauty has always been important to me. I shared, all of that. And now I'm bringing my viewers, mostly yoga women, probably many of them vegetarian, to this new information. And I've also started a podcast to share a lot of what I'm learning.
Wow. That's awesome. And if people are curious, what's the name of your podcast going to be?
My podcast is you can see it on Kiki Says on YouTube, and I just call it an expert event with Kiki TV. I have a video on demand platform for like a streaming monthly subscription for yoga, wellness, fitness, health, mindset. And so it starts inside as an expert event, kind of like what Dr. ShawnBaker does. And then I share it on YouTube. So I already have a lot up there. I was so happy to get to interview Sally K. Norton. We have a lot in common. We're the same age. She has an extensive yoga background, extensive vegetarian background. It was really like we were just long lost yoga sisters. And we had a great conversation. I brought on an Ayurvedic expert who, we talked about the tradition of meat in Ayurveda. I think that's important for yogi people to understand. We're not given all the health supports that we need. It's like these pages have been torn from the book, so we won't fulfill our health if we don't have all the information.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay. What advice would you give someone who perhaps had a similar story before you started carnivore? If they were listening to this podcast and were thinking about trying the carnivore diet?
I would say that The clean food diet is a myth, and that we like. I would say eat meat and eat a lot of it. Don't go slow. A lot of the ideas that you have about meat are conditioning. A lot of the revulsion that you have is conditioning. And listen to Meat RX, listen to Low Carb Down Under, build a wisdom, build an encyclopedia in your mind of all the knowledge, of all the history, of all the tradition, and all this great new science and research of why meat has been an important part of the Homo sapien diet and our ancestral diet, and get back to it and start living the life that you deserve to live. Um, this idea that as a yoga person, as a vegetarian person, that the individual should make a sacrifice for the betterment of others when their own health is at risk is just a myth, and it's self-harm. And get the nourishment, get amazing nourishment, and the nourishment that great uh, ancestral traditions all throughout the world and through so many cultures have benefited from. Just step into that river of great nutrition. And when you have great nutrition, uh, the opinions of others will fall away. That's something that I have to say, that I've like this fear that vegetarians have about, oh my God, if my community knows I'm eating meat, they're going to reject me. I would say that that's actually an anxiety coming from lack of nutrition, like Georgia Ede or Amber O'Hearn talks about. Because as soon as I had nutrition, I realized, like, oh, I was kind of superstitious. I was, embrace different rituals around different devotional things in the Indian or even the Catholic Church that I grew up in. So a lot of these ideas that vegetarians have, like, oh, if I eat it, will I die? If I eat it, will I get sick? It's an anxiety that's coming out of poor nutrition, and like a need for the approval of one's community, because quite frankly, one is too weak to live on their own. They need the community. When you're weak and exhausted and tired, you need your community. The idea of stepping away, doing something different than the community, stepping away and losing them is actually terrifying. But stepping into superior nutrition with traditional health and carnivore, and go in deep, go in right away. I know women that are adding, like, oh, I added an ounce of fish a month. No, you know, I hear this a lot in the carnivore community, that, if you go out and you order a steak, they always bring it over to the man at the table. So go out, order the steak, and eat lots of steak, and you'll feel fantastic. For women at every stage of life, it's going to benefit your health and your joy and your life of meaning.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Very inspiring. So
Thank you.
I guess that's a good place to say goodbye. I could listen to you talk for hours. I find you very interesting in your story. So I'm going to definitely check out your YouTube channel. But
Thank you so much, Nathan.
well, thank you so much, Kiki, for coming and sharing your story. I have a feeling it's going to help a lot of people. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And on behalf of MeatRx, we'll end it there. All right. Until next time.